The game week 1 deadline is in 2 days, and this is my final team selection. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Choi, and last season we were second in the world with no Haaland. We finished the season 1839th in the world, and hopefully we can replicate something similar this season. This is a weekly team selection video I'll be doing for each game week, but the team is subject to change due to the deadline stream I will also be doing usually an hour and a half before each deadline, so stay tuned. So thank you to the sponsors video, Fantasy Football Scout. It's currently 40% off, and if you're looking to help me out, there's an affiliate link below, so sign up with that, and let's get straight into the video. So 2 last things before we get into the video, I completely forgot. Join my mini league, the code is on the screen, and we're also going to be setting a like goal for this video. So let's see if we can hit 300 likes, and let me know in the comments what you think of this team. I know I personally have some controversial takes, but that's fine, and it's up to you guys to sometimes put me in my place and let me know where you think I'm going wrong. So I'm always interested to what you think. So let's get into the team. So on goal we've got Dean Henderson, and for me he's probably the best goalkeeper at 4.5. When I look at the other keepers that are 5 and 5.5, they probably provide less value than Dean Henderson at Crystal Palace. For me, Ole Glasner's Crystal Palace team were very good defensively. I think they're the 5th best defence on paper with underlying stats. And compared to the other 4.5 keepers, he's the most nailed, where the other ones are probably less reliable. So I'm happy to start the season with Dean Henderson. Our first defender with a 3 at the back is Trent. For me, Trent has always been an amazing FPLS asset. And I think we've seen in pre-season him assist Jota with an amazing chip through ball, and Jota hung at top corner. So it's just a little taster for what Trent can do. I think we know over the years how good he can be, and this year he got a price drop to 7 million, which I just feel is ridiculous. So I feel like with these really good opening fixtures he can prove himself. So our next defender is Josko Guardiola, left back for City, 6 million, and I'm very happy with him. It's probably not worth the downgrade 5.5 to go to any other defender, as Guardiola is definitely the most nailed. Now we haven't seen it in pre-season how attacking he gets, but that's probably due to Walker being out, and usually Walker can sit back while Guardiola goes forward. They had Rico Lewis playing there in pre-season, so they both couldn't go forward. And also Jeremy Doku was playing on the left. When Grealish comes back, you'd like to think that Guardiola can probably overlap and make more space for Grealish. And also it'll be interesting to see how Pep lines up this season. I know every year he likes to spice it up, so it wouldn't be surprising if we see something different, but at 6 million he's an easy change to any other defender in the game other than Trent, who we already have in the team. And the other options you could go in this position is probably a Gabriel or Saliba for Arsenal. We know how good defensively they are. But for me, I plan on going into a Gabriel or Saliba probably later, maybe a transfer in game week 4 or 5. I'll get onto the chip strategy a bit later, and I will explain some of my moves going forward. So next on the list is Pedro Porro. Now Pedro Porro has Leicester away and Everton at home in his opening 2 fixtures, but I know it's not so good in game week 3 where we go to St James's Park versus Newcastle, and we have Arsenal at home. But for me, chasing the upside on those first 2 game weeks is very good. And we have 2 lovely bench options, which is Konsa and Barco. Konsa in particular can be changed with Pedro Porro very nicely. In game week 3 where Porro plays Newcastle, we can sub him out for Leicester away. And in game week 4 where Tottenham play Arsenal, we can sub him out for Everton at home. So those 2 changed lovely, and also we have Barco just in case anything else happens, but I don't think I'll be using him that much during the first few game weeks, as the back 3 we have here will play in most weeks, and they're very nailed, so I have no issue about that. So that concludes the back 5. Our backup keeper is Ward for now, but not much thought has gone into that, as I just chose a keeper that won't be decreased in price. It's very important that you don't pick a keeper like Turner, as after the first 2 game weeks, if people start subbing him out, he'll go down to 3.9 in price, and you need absolutely every cent you can get when it comes to FPL. So let's get into the midfield 5. So as of now, we actually line up with 4 midfielders, with our 5th being on the bench, which is Bob, with Chelsea away. I suppose we'll start with him. Bob, I think, is probably really good value at 5 million, and I think Pep will give him a lot of game time this season. I have 8 attackers in this team. That's why I have 4 lined up in the middle, which means we have 3 up top. So he can be swapped for one of the strikers if you fancy him for game week 1. I just don't know which way I'm going to go yet. So I feel Bob will probably definitely get the first 2 fixtures, I want to say, but we do have some decent team leakers that might give us some valuable information before the deadline starts each week. So let's see what happens with that. I'm more than happy to spend 5 million on a player like Bob of his quality, though. I'm not saying he's going to cover the City attack, but he'll definitely be very valuable if he does play. So next player on the pitch is Eze. Eze for me, 7 million. I know I say it every video, but he's probably one of the better value players in the game. 7 million. He should be probably 7.58 minimum. He's on penalties and free kicks, Oli Glasner's side. Not more you want from a player. If you look at this midfield, they're all talismanic figures for their club. Eze, penalties, free kicks, Salah on penalties, Son on penalties, and Bruno on penalties. And for me, I value that a lot. Now, while I'm looking at these fixtures, I just noticed that there's a lot of away fixtures. And I know that can put people off, but they are away fixtures against maybe weaker sides. And also, if you have away fixtures this week, it means you have home fixtures the next. And that's not the case in every single week, but next week it is the case. So it doesn't put me off at all. Next, we'll go into Youngmin Son. So for me, I keep changing Son for Saka. And I just fancy the Tottenham fixtures more than the Arsenal ones. And I feel like if you're going for an Arsenal attacker, it almost has to be Saka. Saka is their main man, and over a season he will be phenomenal, no doubt about it. But with Spurs, I feel like you can probably attack the Leicester away and Everton at home fixtures, whereas Saka has 3 away fixtures against Spurs, Villa, and I think it's City. So for me, I think there might be some value to gain from Son, and he's definitely the one that's owned by the least amount of people. So that's Son. Let's move on to Bruno. So Bruno, he's been a consistent FPL asset over the years. Now, in his first 2 seasons, he was definitely way better, but as a player, he creates the most chances in the whole league. So I really highly rate him, but as a personality, maybe not so much. But he's Fulham at home on the first day, which is on Friday. I'll be watching that game in Fantasy Football Fest, and I hope to see Anyway, like I was trying to say, trying to see as many as possible. So if any of you are around, be sure to come up to me. Anyway, so let's get into the next player in the team, which is Mohamed Salah, who will likely be my game week 1 captain. For me, Salah has been the jewel in the crown for the last few years. I know last season he got injured, so he wasn't so good, and it was coming towards the end of Klopp's reign. But I'm still optimistic about a player like Salah in a Arne Slot team who are very attacking. For me, you could probably go for a Jota, but there is still a big gap between Jota and Salah, especially with Salah being on penalties, like I said. And I don't believe in the touchline winger stuff. He's been a touchline winger the last few years now, so he returns every single year. Maybe in the first 6 game weeks, you could probably go with Haaland and you might come out on the better end of the stick, but for me, I'm having my faith in Salah. And I really do think that he will do well in the first few weeks. The fixtures are almost too good to not go there. So let's get into the forward line. So our 3 forwards are João Pedro, Alexander Isak, and Solanke. Now 2 of these 3 are likely in nearly every single team I'm seeing. João Pedro for the enabler if you're going Haaland, and Isak due to him being the second best striker in the league. I suppose we'll start with the 3rd Spurs player in this team. Arsenal fans, be sure to shoot me down. But yeah, I am optimistic about Spurs, and I do think we can score a lot of goals. And if you're not happy with it, just change Son to Saka. No issue with that. I can completely understand, and change Solanke to the likes of Havertz. Not my issue, but is a few things why I prefer the Spurs assets over the Arsenal ones. One being the fixtures. Like I said, the Spurs fixtures, in my opinion, are better, and you're going to wildcard in the Arsenal boys anyway if you're not going to transfer them in game week 5 or 6. But it's also the fact where I think we'll start the season strong, like we seen last season. We went 10 games really well. So I am optimistic about that. But also the fact where Arsenal have a lot of players that can return, whereas I feel like the goals kind of come from 2 or 3 players for Spurs more often. Where for Arsenal you could see a goal come from Jesus, who might start up top instead of Havertz. It could come from Saka, of course. It could come from Trossard, Martinelli. Even some of the defenders pick up goals. Now, I'm not saying them scoring goals is necessarily a bad thing, but their spread of goals is definitely distributed way more than the likes of Spurs. So that's my take on that. But I've no issue if you want the Arsenal boys, like I said. Also, people are probably wondering who's going to be on penalties for Spurs. If I had to put my money on it, it will be Son. I will be very, very surprised if it's Solanke. But if I have the both of them anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. Also, will Solanke start game week 1? I'm still not 100% sure. I know a lot of people really feel like Solanke is going to be nailed after what Ange said, but I just feel like I don't know what I'm going to see. I wouldn't be shocked if he somehow plays Kulusevski in a false 9. And I know he said about Kulusevski not being our number 9, but you never know, man. You just never know. So that's Solanke. Let's move on to João Pedro. João Pedro at 5.5 is a mockery of a price. Maybe unless he gets injured, it's fair. But if he doesn't get injured, Brighton, who I suspect will probably be around mid-table. I know they have a new coach now, but I still feel like João Pedro might get more minutes than last season, especially if he's fit. And he is their main man. He is on the penalties. He doesn't have a decent fixture set, but like I said, that Everton away fixture is good. And again, I don't know if I'm going to start him or Bob. That's who it's between. But we will see. So let's get into the third striker, Alexander Isak. I'm sick of talking about him. He's so good, and he shouldn't be 8.5 million. He's been everyone's team. I don't need to gas him up. But genuinely, he is ridiculous, man. He's like probably worth 100 million if he stays fit. And I was listening to an 11 to 5 podcast, and he was talking about the injuries Eddie Howe goes through in his teams over the last few years. It's a common occurrence that we see lots of injuries at Newcastle. And even he was saying in the Bournemouth days, that Bournemouth came up with a lot of injuries throughout the season also. So it might be due to his training. But if Alexander Isak can stay fit, I have no doubt that he will definitely be in the race for the Golden Boot. He's also on penalties, so let's see if he can do what he done towards the back end of last season. He's absolutely ridiculous. So that's the team. Be sure to let me know what you think. Like I said, we'll be doing a deadline stream on Friday. Now I might start a bit earlier, maybe at 5 around that time. But be sure to check it out. Things could change in this team, with the likes of, for example, whether we keep Salah. I know it's a big talking point. Everyone is currently on the Diogo Jota hype. But there will be a few decisions to be made. Also, the 4.5 position like Conte is up for grabs. And also, even Solanke. If I'm feeling unsure of Solanke towards the deadline, I could even change that up for another 7.5. Who I'm not quite sure yet, but we will see. So that's the end of this video. Thank you everyone for watching, and if you haven't already, hit the like. Like I said, the goal is 300, so let's see if we can get there. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next.